What is going on, you guys? My name is Rayge, and we are back today with a Dark Dimension 7 preview video here and how to prepare, especially now that we have the official confirmation date of March 20th being the release. And actually at reset today, Gear Tier 19 is going to be coming into the game, so we're still waiting to see how that's going to get earned, but in the due time, at least we can go through some quick tips and tricks here of how to prepare for this new game mode, especially with the unlock here of Mephisto coming into the game. So let's go through my free-to-play game plan, guys, because I do think that these are really good points to follow, especially if you're following along and hoping to maximize the efficiency of your run once we have the gear and how those materials are going to be kind of circulated. Take your time. Remember, this game mode is a marathon and not a sprint. There's no need to rush through it. There's always going to be a more efficient approach, but at the end of the day, we have to make sure that we're, keeping pace with continually making progress as opposed to bottlenecking early, and that's what we'll be going through today, especially with some of the key uniques that we'll be focused on. It's quality over quantity in characters. You don't want to bring in too many of these expensive characters. Mind you, some of them are worth it, but we need to be strategic in how we minimize and maximize the value here with some cheap characters and, balancing that approach as we've had in the previous Dark Dimension guides I've done. We have the opportunity here. We got to take advantage of watching the whales and dolphin spenders. I mean, there's a reason they're spending in the game. They want to get a head start. They want to be the ones leading the forefront on this. Well, us as being free to play, we can watch and learn and take advantage of this moment, right? They are the experience that we don't yet have, and by doing so, we can actually be better prepared and actually even more informed than when they were. So, huge shout out to the whales and dolphins in the game that do want to always get a head start on this. This is going to be super insightful. We'll definitely be keeping a close eye on them. And then, guys, a big piece of advice here on why we shouldn't be rushing and trying to get through it as soon as possible, unless you're spending or unless you're well equipped for this, is that new tunes are coming into the game. If you recall, now both Extreme and Pegasus team do exceptionally well in Dark Dimension 6. They were not available when Dark Dimension 6 came around. So there's always going to be that expectation that the newer teams are better and they're going to be better equipped to handle these kind of game modes. We know Cabal is coming. We know Panda Pool and his team is coming, especially with the Deadpool rework. Alpha Flight is still yet to be announced and how that team synergy is going to be. And we know there's going to be a Vampire team. So, there's no rush. I'm excited for each and every one of these teams and characters. So let's make the most of this. Obviously, we can still learn, but at the same time, keep an open mind that some of these characters are going to be meta changing. And yes, we'll be able to take advantage of them. So what's new, guys? What is different in this game mode? Well, there's a new mythic trait that's getting added, and the format has been revised a little bit based on how they've typically done in the past, right? So we're starting with 3 nodes now, node traits. Then we're following that up with City, where you're not allowed any mythic or non-legendary characters, and then global, cosmic, legendary, and then finally wrap things up with the mythic. The mythic trait are specifically these 7 characters on screen right now, which is Ultron, Doctor Doom, Dormammu, Super Skrull, Ultimus, Apocalypse, and Castro. I can already, preview which team is going to be for Mythic, and it's going to be important to focus on the Mythic trait because they could be potentially how we get constrained resources and the bottlenecks, right? But having said that, we still yet to receive any confirmation on maybe if Ultron or Ultimus is getting a rework in the future. So for that reason, unless you guys have an absolute dying reason to bring these characters up to Gear Tier 19. Say, for instance, you want to, maintain your compete level in Arena, or you need them to thrive in Crucible and War, then I would actually hold back on pushing them to Gear Tier 19 just because they could be playing a bottleneck for us in the future, especially if you want to be getting into Dark Dimension 7 as soon as possible and then participating in, obviously, the challenges of it. But more on that in a little bit here. So, Gear Tier 19, I mentioned that this is officially confirmed today, so March 6th, time recording, based on the blog post that was released last week, and it's called this demonic gear, right? Now, again, we don't really see the details of how this is going to get released yet. In the past years, this was done through in raids. Maybe they want to switch that up through War and Crucible. Who knows? We're going to be seeing that down the line here. Additional detail will likely come to the game. But first, this is probably going to be offered basically in an offer mode. So people are going to likely spend and want to gain access to this gear and see how that's going to be doing. But it doesn't sound like the power bump is going to be as significant as we saw with Gear Tier 18. But keep in mind, this is the first stage of Gear Tier 19, right? Usually it's related to the new gear that comes out is pertaining to 3 levels. So it's going to be Gear Tier 19, 20, and 21. We'll see if they maintain that kind of trend that we've seen. But again, we don't know how that's going to get circulated yet. So just, hold that thought. We'll see how that information looks today. But I'm just more so preparing and helping you guys, get into that mindset of saving resources and materials. So that's all new. Now, let's talk about the uniques that have been constrained now for not just the teal gear, but as well, this is going to be playing a huge factor for when we decide to pull that trigger on bringing these characters up to gear tier 19. And which is right here, the demonic uniques, right? And sorry guys, the demonic gear isn't in game yet, so I'm just using the teal colors here, but just pretend this is red. There's some really big constraints in some of the uniques, and they are definitely going to be a huge bottleneck for us as we're going through and upgrading characters, not just from 16 to 18, but as well that final big push from 18 to 19 for that new demonic kind of upgrade here. So first and foremost, augmented miasma. There's so many good characters right now in this mode, but I mean, I think the big one is obviously that competition between Dr. Doom and Dormammu, both of them having, miasma and obviously being in the mythic section. Chances are you may only be able to take one of them, so you have to make that decision going forward. But make sure you're not upgrading these other characters as well, like Adam Warlock, Cloak, Deathpool. It remains to be seen maybe if there's going to be some additional love for her. Maybe she's part of the new Pandapool Deadpool team. Who knows? Hela, we know that Kitty Pryde is also getting a rework with confirmed X-Men in the future. So, and then finally, Robbie Reyes, right? He's in the first initial section of City Nodes. So, I mean, you may want to be upgrading him first, but then afterwards, then you have to pick and choose which one you want to bring into Mythic and so forth. So, it's really important to focus on miasma and making sure that you're making the right decision here. If you upgrade both Doom and Dormammu, you may not be able to bring Robbie in City. So that's why it's important, guys. Robbie is like the king of the City section. He may very well be used in the initial 3 nodes where it's non-traded as well. So that's why it's important to make this planning and make sure you're considering and prioritizing which characters. Another big one, in my honest opinion, and the second most important probably following miasma, is osmium. Osmium just has, the bread and butter of the core meta characters in this. I mean, each and every one of them are actually a newer character, so it makes it difficult to choose. But I put in labels here, as you can see, different characters consisting of different sections. We have both Gambit and Iron Man Infinity War in Global, Morgan Le Fay in Legendary, Nightcrawler in Global, Nova in Legendary, Ronin in City, but to be honest, he's definitely going to be the one that we can easily cut from this list, just because all these other characters are more important and have value. And then finally, we have Val and Cosmic, so you really want to be strategic in how you manage this. If, say for instance, you upgrade both Nightcrawler and Gambit into your global section, you may not be able to afford Val. Or if you decide to go ahead and boost your legendary characters first, like Nova and Morgan Le Fay, then you're going to be pretty linchpinned in both global and the cosmic sections. So extremely, extremely important, guys, to prioritize and consider. Val had immense value in the cosmic sections. I have a feeling she's going to be remaining to be that core and engine of that cosmic section. So I'm going to definitely be very conservative here. I likely will only bring one out of these 3 characters to global, save some resources for Val, and then we'll see if we have enough gear in legendary. Thankfully, it is a little later down the process here in terms of the Dark Dimension 7 stages. So definitely some really big uniques, guys. And I also want to touch base quickly on both Astral Energy and Alien Spores now that it's kind of changed up, and some of the best tunes are actually in both of these uniques. And again, guys, this is not an exhaustive list by any means, but 4 pain points that we are definitely seeing and that we should be considering in our review. So obviously the big one here with Astral Energy is the fact that Apocalypse is slotted here. He should be your utmost priority out of each and every single character. Even if Starbrand's part of the meta in the war team right now, even if, you have obviously the global X-Men characters here being part of the meta, it's going to be hard, right? It's going to be very difficult. Sunspot's a great upgrade, don't get me wrong. Icarus, part of Cosmic. Violet Vel can be a really good Cosmic option. And then we also have Phoenix getting that confirmed rework in the future as well. So lots of options, but Apocalypse still remains to be the most important. However, just know that if you're upgrading Apocalypse from the beginning, well, you may not have that opportunity to bring in any of these other characters into the global or cosmic sections just because of their heaviness on resources and as well how much it costs to actually bring up Apocalypse. So something to be mindful of. Obviously, it's definitely in the final stages of Dark Dimension 7, so you could just get away with maybe upgrading one of these characters and then finalizing that with Apocalypse. But maybe you want to stay competitive in Arena and you need Apocalypse to compete. So yeah, just more food for thought for sure, and that's why I wanted to bring this to your attention. Lastly, guys, I think Alien Spores kind of just came up on this list because honestly, with Super Skrull still being hands down the best character in the game at the time of recording, he is always going to have that kind of emphasis, right? He does share a lot of alien spores here with actually many of the Hive Mind members, including Void Knight, who is kind of part of the arena meta now. So definitely food for thought, right? If you're planning to bring Void Knight into Cosmic, well, that could play a factor into how you upgrade Super Skrull later on. Now, thankfully, like I said, these are just the uniques we're talking about. So just make sure you're focusing on building these uniques. The gear materials will likely come in a more generous kind of way, but it's the uniques that usually play that constraint here. So there you guys have it. The 4 of the most constrained uniques right now in the game for some of the best characters right now that we're talking about. So make sure you guys are paying attention to these upgrades and unlocks, because these are the materials that we should be focusing on when these the new gear tier 19 does go live. To ultimately allows the opportunity to work towards building and getting ready here for Dark Dimension 7. So again, stay tuned. Make sure you're watching the other Whales and Dolphins spenders, guys. They have some great insight as well. They're going to be able to test these strategies before us, so we definitely want to be mindful of that. Thank you for your time as always. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.